Good afternoon, dear students, and welcome once again to English 9 of our Eat to Lie session. So good morning. Good morning. Good afternoon, Shia Ruve. Hello, Maflor Ancheta, Frances Katrina Velarde, Richelle Colili. Ayan, Crystalline Acera. Ayan, mga early birds natin. Charmaine Fayette Nick Hart. Thank you very much for joining us. And thank you for making it on time for our English 9 session. So, again, reminder, our English 9 is every Tuesday from 3 to 3:40 p.m. So you can watch us on our Facebook page, DepEd Itulay, and you can also view our lessons on our YouTube channel. So together with Tutor Ellie from SDO Camarines Sur, I am your tutor, Job, from SDO Nueva Vizcaya. And for this time, may I just request everyone to please share our tutorial session so that we can reach our students who are in need of assistance for their lessons or in English 9, and also for those who would like to review even our lessons, or if you would like to have advanced lessons, you are welcome to our English 9 session. Hey, good afternoon, Graymar Valiente. Hello, Ashley Ranke, Ermeline Madawin, Charmaine nabanggit na kanina, all right? Riza May Anog. Hello. Hello, everyone. Okay, so here's just a review of our topics for English 9 quarter 3. So for the first few weeks, we talked about biases and prejudices. Okay, a macro skill viewing. All right, the fifth macro skill in communication, and of course, with that topic, we had lessons on taking stands on an issue and also judging the truthfulness of the material viewed. And for the previous session that we had last week, you were with Tutor Ellie. I was out, unfortunately, because I had other matters to attend to. And for today, I am here with you because Tutor Ellie also has some things to do in their schools division, right? So last week, Tutor Ellie taught you on the skill of listening. And also, if you could notice, that's under week 6. And for week 7, that is today, okay? For today, we're going to have our week 7 lesson. Instead of doing types of listening, Tutor Ellie already touched that lesson last week. So today we're going to have an advanced lesson on identifying the validity of evidence from a text listened to. So for week 8, next week, we are going to have our recognition program for those who were participative throughout our lessons. Okay, so the awards that we're going to give for the third quarter, we are going to have it for next week. So, I hope na abangan din natin yung mga yan. Tsaka yung mga lagi nating kasama sa ating session. Abang-abangan ninyo ang mga awards na ibibigay sa inyo. Alright, so who else are here? Sean Vincent is here. Hello. And for those who I might not be able to mention, sorry, ang dami. Ayan. Good afternoon, Oskia Bornia. Chiase Andrea, hello. Good afternoon. Okay, so let's proceed. Okay, ayan. Medyo please forgive me because sometimes medyo medyo bumabagal ang ating internet nowadays. Probably due to the demand ng ating what do you call this? Siguro dun sa internet service provider din namin dito sa area natin. So let me just wait for our presentation to load. It seems like medyo delayed. Mukhang delayed ang aking na yun, ang ating presentation. But meanwhile, let me just recognize the students who are here today. We have Janelle Paul Light. Ayan, Janelle Paul Light is here with us. Ara Gail Reyes Giron. Ayan, meron tayong mga familiar names. Some I think medyo hindi pa ako familiar eh. Siguro hindi lang sila masyadong active pa, nanonood na dati, or maybe nanonood na rin sila dati pa, no? Hindi lang sila masyadong nagpaparamdam. So, if you want, no, ayun na, just a reminder for our viewers, our learners who are here with us, If you want to be recognized later on for your in the recitation, no, you participate with our discussions, and also pag meron tayong mga assignments, you can pass your assignments in our uh, messenger, ayan, messenger GC. So if you are not yet a part of our pambansang GC na tinatawag namin sa English 9, okay, please indicate there in the chat box so that we can add you, or your fellow classmates can add you. So, hello Ma'am May, if you can hear me po from the backstage, may I request po na ano na lang po, pa-share po ulit ng aking presentation. Thank you very much, because I think nag-crash kanina eh. Okay, let's see, where were we? All right, so for today, we are going to have first a review of our previous lesson, okay? So, let's see. Okay, there we go. If you remember, last week, we talked about the listening skills, our listening skills. So what is listening? So if you can, if you can still remember, what did we say about listening? So listening is actually the process of receiving, constructing meaning from, and responding. Okay, so again, it's receiving, constructing meaning from, and responding to a spoken language. And if you could also remember, we said that listening is the key, okay, is the key to all effective communication. For it is the act of receiving information crucial to understanding what has been told, and finally, deciding how to act on the information that has been known. So that is listening. If you remember, we talked about the 5 stages of listening. So you had this lesson with tutor Ellie. First is receiving. So receiving is the intentional focus on hearing a speaker's message. So first you receive the message, then understanding. Number 2, understanding. Attempting to learn the meaning, deciding what the message means. Step number 3, or stage number 3, is remembering. So you remember the data or the details, or just the important details from what you have listened to. Now, stage 4 is evaluating. So after you receive the message, after understanding it and remembering it, you evaluate it. Okay, because it can vary widely from one listener to another. So you yourself are going to evaluate the things that you heard, and then you, what's the 5th stage? It's responding. So you react to the message. So it can be an emotional reaction. What can you feel? What did you feel from what you listened to? For example, listening to music, right? So for example, if you listen to music that is very touching, okay, or it appeals to what you are going through right now, diba? And you, for example, siguro you cry or you cheer up. So those are your responses, okay? So it can be emotional and intellectual responses. Now, for the types of listening, let's have a fast track of what you discussed from last week. You talked about first discriminative listening, wherein the listener focuses on and identifies the differences of sounds. The second one is comprehensive listening. This is where the listener pays close and careful attention to what is being said, seeking carefully to understand the entire content, and the speaker is seeking to put across. The third type is appreciative listening. So this is what we do, for example, when you listen to music and such, right? Wherein the listener attempts to seek information that he or she will appreciate because it will help him or her meet his or her needs and goals. So for the 4th type is sympathetic listening. This is the type of listening that we do with our friends who are in need, all right? Who are in need of someone to listen to, di ba? Yung someone to listen for them, or listen from them, right? Because this is where a listener listens to care about the other person. So, number 5 The fifth type is false listening, where the listener pretends to listen but is not really hearing anything that is being said. Madalas dyan yung mga ano, di ba, yung inuutusan tapos opo, opo, tapos hindi pala nakikinig. That's false listening. Number 6, evaluative listening. This is where the listener makes judgments about what the other person is saying. And the seventh type is deep listening, where the listener seeks to understand the whole person behind the facade of his words. So it's not just the words per se that comes out from his mouth, but the listener also listens or also looks at that person's entire being. The eighth type that you talked about was selective or biased listening, where the listener hears only what he wants to hear. Thank you very much. We have students or learners here from YouTube for our watching from our YouTube channel, watching via YouTube from SMNHS Maines. Is the O Isabella, Shia Sagun. Hello, hello sa inyo, or those who are also joining us sa YouTube channel natin. All right. So last week you had an activity. So Tutor Ellie gave you an activity entitled "Huh?" Okay, so here is a link for the listening task that you had. So what you had to do was to listen to the audio and tell us what it is about. Tell us if you agree, and you cite references or source that would support your statement. So as usual, you submitted your outputs to each of us, and here is the best output of the week. Congratulations, Graciela Buensuceso from Alibadbad National High School SDO Isabela. Yan. Congratulations to you. If you also want to be recognized later on for your outputs, make sure to watch the end of our session to see what our task for this week will be. Congratulations. All right, let's have a closer look. The audio is all about a man, probably a president, who is being deprived of his freedom of expression. So yun yung takeaway ni Graciela. Now, for number 2, sabi niya dito, no, I don't agree with what the audio says. Why? Sabi niya, I disagree because there are many ways on how we can express ourselves. Calling women, ayan, sabi niya, di ba, very inappropriate words to call women. Now, according to Philippine news agency Magna Carta of Women RA 9710, it is a ayan, zoom out. Ayan. So it is a comprehensive women's human rights law that seeks to eliminate discrimination through the recognition, protection, fulfillment, and promotion of the rights of Filipino women, especially those belonging in the marginalized sector of the society. Now, Graciela also presented us with an evidence, so very, very good. Yeah, and congratulations daw, Graciela, from your classmates for our English 9 session. And of course, hindi dyan nagtatapos ang ating recognition, because we are also going to recognize the excellent tuties of the week. Yan. So number 1, ayan. From Godofredo Reyes Senior National High School, congratulations, Charmaine Fayette Esnicart and Gwyneth Ordonez. From Ocampo National High School, congratulations, John Kyle M. Brandes. Ayan, hello naman, comment naman kayo dyan kung nandito ulit kayo, for you to be recognized also again for being our excellent tuties. Of course, not just comment, but participate with our discussions later. Congratulations, Ermeline Madawin, Raisa May Anog, Frances Katrina Velarde, Maria Flor Ancheta, and Princess Elijah Conchas from San Mariano National High School. Congratulations, Draymar Valiente from Ladlo National High School, and Graciela Suceso from Alibadbad National High School. Thank you very much for your participation. But again, hindi dyan nagtatapos ang ating recognition, because we would also like to recognize the supportive teachers of the week. Congratulations po to Ma'am Marnelli Mauricio from San Mariano National High School SDO Isabela. And congratulations, Ma'am Maria Luisa Pascua from Godofredo Reyes Senior National High School SDO Camarines Sur. Thank you very much, dear teachers, for your support. Of course, We would also like to recognize the schools who were very supportive. San Mariano National High School from SDO Isabela, Godofredo Reyes Senior National High School, SDO Camarines Sur, Ocampo National High School from SDO Camarines Sur, and LFG Diamantina National High School from SDO Isabela. Yan, nag-uumapaw ang ating recognition because we really, really appreciate what you are doing for our, not just for our Itulay sessions, but for your learners who are in need of this assistance. So thank you very much once again. So now, dear learners, we are in week 7 of our session, which is entitled The Validity of Arguments. So our lesson is taken from our ADM modules from SDO Navotas. So Schools Division of Navotas, thank you very much for for sharing your materials with us. Now, for our objectives for today, for this lesson, is to differentiate a statement from an argument, to recognize the validity of arguments, and lastly, to analyze and break down an argument. So for our first task, for us to be able to achieve these objectives, let's have our first task. It's very simple, argument or not. Now, you have to identify whether each item is an argument or not. So comment there in the comment section later. Say yes if it is an argument. If it is not an argument, say no. Okay? So it's as simple as that. Are you ready? Okay, I hope you are. Now, in relation to our previous lesson, I will not be showing you the text. Okay? So each item will be read. Okay? So I will read each item. You have to listen carefully and tell me, is it an argument or not? Hello, Tutor Ellie. Ayan, nasa background si Tutor Ellie. So please don't forget to comment your name, your school, the name of your English teacher, and your division. Yeah, that's a reminder from Tutor Ellie. So let's proceed with our first task. Again, say yes if it is an argument. Say no if it is not. So here's item number 1. So listen carefully. We must resist all effort to allow the government to censor entertainment. Freedom of speech and expressions are essential to a democratic form of government. As soon as we allow some censorship, it won't be long before censorship will be used to silence the opinions critical of the government. The next thing we know, we will have no more freedom than the Germans did under Hitler. Again, say yes if that was an argument and no if it was not. I'll read it again. We must resist all effort to allow the government to censor entertainment. Freedom of speech and expressions are essential to a democratic form of government. As soon as we allow some censorship, it won't be long before censorship will be used to silence the opinions critical of the government. The next thing we know, we will have no more freedom than the Germans did under Hitler. So what's your answer? Was there an argument in that statement, in that text? So here, let's go. So most of you said no. Okay, number 1, no. But only one person said yes. Actually, okay, if you are able to get something there was actually an argument presented there. So the answer is yes. Okay, so that there was an argument there. What was the argument? It's not allowing censorship. Okay, so it's all about freedom of speech and expressions, and they are appealing to the listeners, okay, to not allow censorship. Sabi niya doon. So there was actually an argument. So the answer is yes. So don't worry if you did not get that right. You have to listen carefully. So here's the next statement. Here's the next piece of text that I'm going to read to you. So listen carefully. Again, say yes if it is an argument, say no if it is not. Number 2, to install the program, you must first put the CD in the player. Open up the file manager, click on Run, and type in d:" install. After the program is loaded, you will need to restart the computer to use the program. So again, number 2, is it an argument or not? To install the program, you must first put the CD in the player. Open up the file manager, click on Run, and type in d:"install." After the program is loaded, you will need to restart the computer to use the program. Number 2, very confident. Ayan, very confident na sila ngayon. Definitely not. It's not an argument. So the answer is no. These are series of instructions, right? So there's really no argument there. Very good. Let's listen to number 3. Listen carefully. Number 3. Roger Mary's record of 61 home runs in a single season stood from 1961 until 1998. He should be admitted into the Baseball Hall of Fame. So that's number 3. Again, number 3. Roger Mary's record of 61 home runs in a single season stood from 1961 until 1998. He should be admitted into the Baseball Hall of Fame. So number 3, is it an argument or not? Yes or no? So your answers are number 3. Very good. Most of you said no. Yes, you are right. So the answer is no, it is not an argument. So let's have number 4. Listen carefully. All this talk about banning guns makes me sick. Isn't it obvious that if we ban guns, law-abiding citizens will not own them, while only the criminals will have them? Again, here's number 4. All this talk about banning guns makes me sick. Isn't it obvious that if we ban guns, law-abiding citizens will not own them, while only the criminals will have them? What's your answer? Number 4. Here we have the answers. Very good. Most no, not just, it's not just most of you, it's all of you. All of you said yes, and that's correct. There was an argument presented there. It's all about having to the need to ban guns or not. Very good. And here's the last one. Number 5. Listen carefully. 2 teenagers saw the movie Natural Born Killers and went out on a killing spree. A number of teenagers who have committed violence at schools have spent many hours playing video games filled with murder and violence. We must have some stricter controls on the content of entertainment that is viewed by teenagers. Again, number 5. 2 teenagers saw the movie Natural Born Killers and went out on a killing spree. A number of teenagers who have committed violence at schools have spent many hours playing video games filled with murder and violence. We must have some stricter controls on the content of entertainment that is viewed by teenagers. So your answer, let's see. All of you again said yes. So very good. Yes, that was an argument. So thank you very much for your active participation, dear students. Now that is an example of an argument. Okay, so those are examples of arguments, and otherwise others are statements. Now before we proceed, let us differentiate a statement from an argument. So here, a statement is a group of words that can either be true or false. Okay, so that's the difference. Now, the difference of a statement from an argument is that for the argument, it is a series of statements or what we call premises. Okay, take note of that. Remember that, dear students. Okay, in an argument, the statements are what we call the premises, which are intended to determine the degree of truth of another statement. That statement is now our conclusion. So again, a statement can be true or false. However, an argument can either be valid or invalid. So that is what we're going to talk about for later. Now, let's talk about the 2 basic kinds of argument. Okay, so for us to better understand these arguments, or for us to recognize what arguments are, let's look at these two basic kinds of arguments. So the first one is, okay, say it with me. Sa mga nanonood dyan sa kayo, say it with me, deductive argument. Okay, so deductive argument involves that the truth of the claim guarantees the truth of its conclusion. Okay, so the terms valid or invalid, okay, is what we use in deductive argument. So a deductive argument actually a deductive argument succeeds when if you accept the evidence as true, when you look at the evidences, the premises or the statements mentioned before, so when you accept them, so when you say these are true, then you must also accept the conclusion. Okay? So the second one is inductive argument. For an inductive argument, it involves that the truth of the premise already provides some grounds for the conclusion, or it just simply makes the conclusion more probable. Okay? Now, an inductive argument, it is an argument that is intended by the arguer to be already strong enough. So there's no need for him or her to defend it, but he or she just repeats it, okay, for emphasis. Okay, so let's have a checkpoint. Let's try to better understand inductive argument from a deductive argument. So let's try to determine, okay? Okay, dear students, I just want you to try, okay? Do your best. Okay? Determine whether the arguments are deductive or inductive. Again, for a deductive argument, you have to look at the evidences first, and if you accept it, then the conclusion must be true. However, for an inductive argument, the first premise is already true. You cannot argue about it anymore. It's just for added emphasis. Okay, so here's the first statement. Let's look at this. Our teacher told us to keep quiet. Oh, sorry. That was a typo. Oh, so, i-correct natin yan. For those who are going to rewatch this. Ayan. Okay, there we go. Our teacher told us to keep quiet, so we should keep quiet. Is this a deductive argument or an inductive argument? So very good. You answered inductive argument. You are correct. This is an inductive argument. Now let's look at the next item. If I am literate, then I can read and write. I can read, but I can't write. Thus, I am not literate. So is this a deductive argument or an inductive argument? Let's wait for the answers. Very good, dear students. You answered number one. Here's number two. Is this deductive or inductive? The answer is deductive argument. If you can see, there's the first premise. If I am literate, then I can read and write. So that's the first statement, or what we call the first premise. The second one is that I can read, but I can't write. So that's his second premise. So what was the conclusion? Thus, I am not literate. That's the conclusion. Very good. That is what we call the deductive argument. Let's try another. Here's the third item. The security guard said that we cannot leave the school grounds during class hours. Thus, we cannot go out during school hours. What is the type of argument used in this? Is it deductive or inductive? Number three. Yes, this is actually an inductive argument. Okay, because there's no other need for that person to prove the premise that he or she presented. Okay, number four. Here's another one. All cyclists wear helmets. Alan doesn't wear a helmet. Therefore, Alan is not a cyclist. Is this a deductive or an inductive argument? Yes, it is a deductive argument. Very good. So that's a difference between inductive and deductive arguments. Now, when we look at arguments, we are also going to look at the validity of these arguments. What is the validity? It is the quality of being logically or factually sound. You have to remember that. Okay. And when we say that an argument is valid, or what we call a valid argument, we can say it is valid if the premises are true and the conclusion must also be true. Okay. Take note of that. If the premises are true, the conclusion must be true. Here's an example. The first premise is Socrates is a philosopher. Premise two is all philosophers like thinking. So the conclusion is Socrates likes thinking. These, dear students, is what we call a transitive reasoning. Okay? So this is a valid argument. I repeat, it's a valid argument. Okay? Next, here's another example of an argument. I do my chores or I can't play. I'm doing my chores. Therefore, what's the conclusion? I can play. Okay, so this is an example of a disjunctive syllogism. It expresses a choice between two mutually exclusive possibilities. So it's either this or that. So if you do this, then that is the result. Okay? So pipili lang sila, okay? So that is a valid argument, dear learners, okay? And it is what we call a disjunctive syllogism. So those are examples of valid arguments. Now, Tutor Job, what about an argument that is invalid? How do we know if these are invalid? So, of course, an invalid argument is, of course, an argument that is not valid. So we can test the invalidity by assuming that, okay, sabi dito yung naka-highlight ng yellow, even if all the premises are true, the conclusion can be false. So there's a possibility that it can be false. Okay? So we can do this by assuming all the premises are true and seeing whether it is possible for the conclusion to be false. Now, if it is possible that the conclusion is false, then that argument is invalid. So let's take a look at examples. If you are a teacher, then you have a job. You are not a teacher, therefore, you don't have a job. Okay? Does that make sense? Well, this is actually an invalid argument. Specifically, it shows a fallacy of inverse or the opposite. It does not always apply, okay, in every argument. So the opposite of something, okay, so that is not the truth. Sabi ni John Kyle, ayan, hello John Kyle Brandes, thank you very much for your recitation. Sabi niya, an invalid argument is an argument in which the premises do not provide conclusive reasons. That's right. They cannot provide conclusive reasons for the conclusion. Okay? Now, arguments of this form, this fallacy of inverse, are invalid. Why? Because this means that the arguments of this form do not give a good reason. Okay, they do not give a good reason to establish the conclusion. Now, even if the premises are true, even if it is true that if you are a teacher, then you have a job, the conclusion still cannot be accepted because that is a fallacy of inverse. Here's another invalid argument. If the lamp is broken, then the room will be dark. Premise 2, the room is dark. What's the conclusion? The lamp is broken. Okay, so this actually, dear learners, is an invalid argument showing fallacy of converse. Okay, when we say converse, it is having a characteristic which are the reverse. Okay, the opposite of something that is already mentioned before. Now, it is a fallacy because it is a fallacy of taking a true conditional statement and invalidly inferring its converse, even though the converse, which was that the lamp is broken, the room will be dark, the room is dark, therefore the lamp is broken, it may not be true. And in this case, it definitely is not true because there are other possibilities why the room is dark, right? Maybe the lamp was just turned off, right? Am I right? Maybe the lamp was just turned off, or that no one was there to turn the lights on. Okay, there are other possibilities, not just the lamp being broken. So if there are other possibilities, Okay? And that person claims na, hindi, ganito lang yan. No, that is a fallacy of converse. Okay? There we go. Here's another example of an invalid argument. All cats are mammals. Premise 2, all cats are predators. Therefore, all mammals are predators. What is this? Is this a valid or invalid argument? Of course, it's not a valid. So it's invalid. It's an invalid argument. Specifically, it presents false chain. Okay? It doesn't mean that if all cats are mammals and all cats are predators, therefore all mammals are predators. That is a wrong chain of logic. Okay, so you can analyze later on arguments and identify whether they are valid or invalid. So those are just a few examples of invalid arguments. So it's basically logic, right? And we've talked about that in our previous lessons. So now I want you to determine whether each of these arguments are valid or invalid. So we are almost done with our lesson. Okay, so now let's have a challenge. Determine whether these arguments are valid or invalid. Just type valid or invalid. Okay, are you ready? Let's begin. If you want to be a salesman, then you have to be a flashy dresser. You don't want to be a salesman, thus, you don't have to be a flashy dresser. Is this a valid or an invalid argument? Okay? Again, is this argument valid or invalid? Let's see your answers. Okay. Azel Kabasag already answered. How about the others? Princess Elijah Bunsuceso, hello. Yan, all of you answered invalid. Yes, this is an invalid, invalid. There you go, invalid argument. Specifically, it's also an example of a false chain. Okay, it's a but it's a false connection. It shows false connections, okay, between the premises. Very good. How about this item? Number 2, I wash the dishes or I don't eat. I eat, thus I wash the dishes. Is this valid or invalid? Again, can you please put in your answers the item number? Okay, so number 2, then your answer, so that I would know if your answer is for the first question or the second question. Okay, very good. Princess Joy Labayog already answered. Ermeline Madawin. Okay, ang dami na. Cristalina Serra, Raisa Mayano, Graymar, Sean Vincent, Kurt, Shia, your answers are all valid, and yes, this is a valid argument. It displays or it demonstrates disjunctive syllogism, just like the first example that we had in our discussion. Very good. So again, for this argument, they're presenting two mutually exclusive possibilities. So if you don't do this, ganito. Okay? So that is a valid argument. Very good. Here's the third item, number 3. If today is Monday, then tomorrow is Tuesday. If tomorrow is Tuesday, then the day after tomorrow is Wednesday. Therefore, if today is Monday, then the day after tomorrow is Wednesday. Okay, what is your answer? Is this valid or invalid? Number 3, okay? Valid or invalid? Very good. Number 3, that is a valid argument. It shows transitive reasoning. Very good. Number 4, let's go. All firefighters are courageous. Alexander is not a firefighter. Thus, Alexander is a coward. Is this valid or invalid? Number 4, valid or invalid? Let's see your answers. Thank you very much for your active participation. Napakadami. Ang bilis mag-scroll ng ating mga comments. Very good. So we have answers for number 4 now. And your answers, you all answered invalid, and that is correct. Very good. Nakaka-proud naman at nakukuha ninyo ng perfect lahat. Okay, so very good. This is specifically showing a fallacy of inverse, right? The negative, okay? Ginagawang negative, right? And that is an invalid argument. Now for the fifth one, okay? Number five. Number five na tayo. Very good. Thank you very much. Napakagaling. If you aren't polite, you won't be treated with respect. If you aren't treated with respect, therefore, you aren't polite. Is this valid or invalid? Number five, valid or invalid? Okay, we have answers now from Princess Joy Labayo. Thank you. What about the others? Oh, di ba ang bilis ninyong sumagot eh? Very good. Your answers are all invalid. No, I don't mean it like that, okay? You all answered invalid. And those answers are correct. This is an invalid argument. So it shows the fallacy of converse, okay? Very, very, very good. Now, dear learners, here's a reminder for all of us, okay? It's not just for our lesson for today, but in your everyday life, okay? So a good argument proves or establishes its conclusion and has two, remember these two key features of a good argument, okay? Number one, it is logically strong, okay? And number two, all of its premises are true. Remember, if one of the premises of your argument is false, then your conclusion cannot be true. Okay? So you have to make sure that when you argue when you present an argument, it should be number one, logically strong, and number two, all of the premises that you mentioned are true. Okay? For us to be able to accept your conclusion. Very, very good. And that is the end of our lesson for today. Now, for your assignment, for your additional activity entitled Break It Down, what we want you to do as we we are almost at the end of our third quarter, dear learners, okay? Now, what we want you to do is for you to write down an argument, okay? Write down an argument in this format. Ayan. You can use this as your format. Yung format natin na ganito, let me just give you an example, no? This format, it can be like this, okay? For example, ito yung kanina yung from our previous discussion, fallacy of inverse. O ito yung transitive reasoning. This one is a valid one. So, ganito yung parang breakdown natin. So, first premise, second premise, and then conclusion. But when you present your argument, we want it to be in a siguro parang paragraph form. Okay? Parang ganito. Ayan, dire-diretso na siya, di ba? Now, if you want to break this down, what is the first premise in this? So the first premise in this example is, if I am literate, then I can read and write. That's the first premise. So that's the first statement, right? The second statement is, I can read, but I can't write. That's your premise number two or your second statement. And your conclusion is, thus, I am not literate. Yan. Parang ganito yung gagawin ninyo, right? But when you break it down, magiging ganitong form siya, just like this one. Okay, so that's the difference, okay, for my instructions, for me to be able to make my instruction clearly, okay? So first, write down your argument. That is the paragraph form, okay? And then, okay, what is the argument about, Sir Job? It should be about how Itulay can help students with their lessons, especially nowadays where still there are some schools who are not yet doing the face-to-face classes, right? They're not engaged yet in face-to-face classes, but I understand that some of us are already having face-to-face. And congratulations to you and to your respective schools, divisions, and LGUs for working together for you to have your face-to-face classes. But there are still schools who are not yet conducting face-to-face classes. So how can Itulay help these students, okay, with their lessons? So write down an argument. So again, that argument is in paragraph form. And then at the bottom, break down the premises you want to present and express your conclusions based on these premises. So what will it look like? It should look like this. So your argument will be up here in paragraph form, and then break down those the premises presented and the conclusion. Okay. There you go. So you can take a screenshot of these, or I will send it later to our on our GC. So submit these. You can also submit these assignments to each of us, your tutors. Okay, so let's review our objectives for today. Okay, the first was to differentiate a statement from an argument. Did we do that? Yes, of course. You remember, a statement can be true or false. Okay, so it's just most of the time it's just one sentence, and an argument is a series of statements. Okay, or series of sentences which leads to a conclusion. So that's the difference between a statement and argument. Number two, recognize the validity of arguments. You were able to do that. And bonus, okay, bonus, we are able to also identify the types, okay, of valid and invalid arguments. And of course, for your third task, which is your assignment, is for you to analyze and break down an argument. So that argument will come from you also, okay, from you. You're going to write an argument telling us how Itulai can help our learners. Okay, so we will wait for your assignments. Thank you very much once again, Isabella May de la Cruz, Mary Joy Velasco. Thank you for joining us. Ayan, 5 out of 5 ang scores ng. Actually, hindi lang karamihan eh. Napansin ko parang lahat eh. Lahat. Very, very good. And that is an indication that you were able to grasp the lesson for today. Thank you very much. Nakaka-proud. Nakaka-proud kayo. Thank you. Thank you rin, Shia, Ermeline Madawit, Francis Katrina. Yes, thank you. So that has been your English 9 lesson for quarter 3, week 7, the validity of arguments. So together with your tutor Ellie from SDO Camarines Sur, who is still here with us in backstage, and of course, your tutor Job from SDO Nueva Vizcaya. We thank you for joining us. We hope to see you again next week for our week 8 session. That will be our last week for the third quarter. Every Tuesday at 3 to 3:40 p.m. English 9. For also our English other English grade levels for junior high school, that will be from 1:40, that will be from grade 7 to 4:20 p.m. for a grade until that's 7, grade 7, 8, 9, 10. Support our tutors. If you want to review your lessons sa grade 7, manood kayo, right? If you want to have advanced lessons, you can join. You can watch grade 10 lessons, right? Thank you. Thank you very much for your continuous support, not just for you learners, but also to the teachers and our schools and divisions who really support this program. Thank you. Thank you very much. Goodbye. Thank you po.